Greetings, Pythonistas, students, world game players, fellow teachers. This is a recruiting video. I could say it's directed at a wide audience. You're looking for new content. As a student, as a teacher, we're going to have to admit up front it's kind of fringy, but it's something that you can steer towards the mainstream and gain traction doing so. I'll explain that. So, say you're a student debt person. There's a lot of people who went through school recently, partly out of the recession of 2008. It was like, what else are we going to do except get a student loan and try to live like that? And so everyone got pushed into debt that way. And then they did whatever, and now they're unemployed again. And this time there's very little relief offered. And it's like, so here's what you didn't learn after you took out that student loan and went to find out what's going on. You went to college, whatever. Here's what they didn't teach you. So this would be an Orwellian memory hole. Like they would not have taught you that this best futurist of the last century who got a Medal of Freedom, he had prototypes smack in the center of the Pentagon, right in that courtyard. The USIA built his World's Fair Pavilion. Let me finish my own sentence, but I'm just saying, very mainstream, totally mainstream. A cold warrior, and like accepted in all the schools. People had him come and talk for hours to all the students and stuff. But there was, as Patricia Ravasio points out in her book, there was a plan to put him in an Orwellian memory hole once he was out of the way. But of course, he had his followers, his disciples, some of whom, like Kiyoshi Kuramiya, were like act up activist types, like seriously not to be just shut up easily. And so it wasn't that easy to erase all this stuff. There's still attempts, but I would say there's been mostly failure on that front, which is why I'm saying you can gain traction if you follow my role model, and I'm not going to charge you here. This is not all big Ponzi scheme where I'm trying to say, just send me your $10. I would say you could join the Church of the Subgenius and send them your $30, but that's for another day. Actually, I might get back to that. But in any case, School of Tomorrow, okay. This is going to be based a lot on what's accessible at Synergetics on the Web, which goes way back to the 1990s. Currently hosted at GrunchNet. You'll find it mentioned here and there in certain books, but with different URLs. It's moved around. Like check out Robert Anton Wilson's Encyclopedia of Conspiracies, and look up Grunch by it's alphabetized. And it links to my old, in case you're wondering where that would go, if you'd followed that link under Grunch, PDX4D, right? That would go to something like Synergetics on the Web, which is, like I say, from the 1990s. The web was young. So here we are in 2023, early 2023, when I make this video. And I'm on to GitHub and Jupyter Notebooks and some other stuff. So I'm no longer actively maintaining Synergetics on the Web. In fact, I look at this as an archaeological dig, you could say. But that doesn't make it invaluable. Think of how, or not valuable, it makes it invaluable. I don't know. You want to come here and bone up on the stuff that you're going to turn around and teach with some authority, and it's not like you have to send me your $10 for me to teach you. I want you to do your own homework. You've heard that before, right? Do your own work. Like do the research, right? So I want you to do the research and then go out and teach this stuff as you see fit. And I'm saying it's going to be to your advantage, I think, and I'm just speculating. And you could look back in 5 years and say, well, there's another big waste. I listened to Kirby, but give it a shot. I mean, don't listen to Kirby. Don't take my word for it. I'm saying cross-check. But I think you'll find There's a lot here worth teaching. Now, the history of this project, I would say, inherits from Occupy. And, you probably remember Occupy Wall Street. I was not in that. I did not go to the East Coast for that, but I am where the original Hoovervilles. Remember? Okay, there was this thing called the Bonus Army. I think I have some history here on all this. People who were in World War One, who, as the Great Depression hit, were like, "Hey, we need to be paid now." It was like they weren't going to get paid. There was like some kind of promissory note from Congress, like, "Go get your legs blown off, and we'll pay you someday." And so they're like, "Well, we'd like our money now, please." And the Great Depression's rolling in, and of course, Congress doesn't want to do anything. And so they create what they call a March on Washington. This is after World War One, of course, but before World War Two. And they create this giant Occupy Washington. They like set up a tent village near the White House somewhere. And General MacArthur breaks it up, and Smedley Butler is like really dissing MacArthur about this. It's like you go in there with your horses and smash World War II, World War One vets, and you think you're some kind of hero. Come on, that was Smedley Butler. Now, Smedley Butler, he was a decorated U.S. military hero. He is the one who exposed what we call Business Plot 1.0, which was kind of embarrassingly frustrated by Smedley Butler when they approached him to be like their titular popular guy. The behind the scenes people thought they would take over the U.S., what was called the business plot. And in our version of history, you could say the Occupy history, that business plot 2.0 did succeed finally around Reagan's time. And that's why all this material that I'm going to share with you, but not all here today, like you're going to have to do your homework, right? There's Python here, there's source code, there's all that. But this stuff all got consigned to an Orwellian memory hole because Business Plot 2.0 basically did succeed. And that's why we think that, well, there's a lot you can read about. But for one thing, there's this nationless map. Now, nationless can mean different things to different people, and some people are going to paint their nations on here. There's a lot of talk about virtual nations amidst the existing nations and so on. It's more like it all takes place against this background or blank background that does not go out of date so fast. Because there's a lot of memory hole stuff. There's whole issues of where in the world is Carmen Sandiego. That was a very popular TV show. That's hard to get anymore because too many of the countries have changed and they kind of don't want people to think about that too much. So like TV shows about geography are kind of sticking their neck out and they think about things happening today and the world maps being shown today, right? So this one doesn't go out of date so fast. That's pretty mainstream. There's Amy Edmondson. Quite a long time ago, she was the like all of what I'm talking about goes way back. Let me be clear. We're talking about what was called the design science revolution, and you got to trace it to the Bohemians. This was not really a boomer thing. The boomers were in the audience, and a lot of them picked up on it. And so, like, I would say probably Amy's a boomer, I'm a boomer. A lot of these peoples are boomers, but Bucky himself, there's Bucky. He was more a bohemian. He comes in, by bohemian, I mean a generation prior. And Greenwich Village is very important in the story. So go back and read about Romany Marie, the queen of Greenwich Village, and the cohorts that went through there. And Bucky's cohort had like Isamu Noguchi in it, so they were best of friends. And so he goes forward in time. He goes to Black Mountain College eventually as a professor. He meets Kenneth Snelson, Tensegrity. So there's a lot of culture. There's a new bio. There's plenty of info, not to worry. And then there's Python code here. And we do stuff in geometry that you won't have seen. They wouldn't have taught you. So you owe all this student debt, and yet all this stuff will seem new to you, I'm pretty sure, a lot of it. Now, a place to come, and then you can turn around and teach it. You can take these very slides I'm going to go through real quick, just like this fast, and say, get the slides and start teaching them ASAP. To do so, you'll have to learn some stuff, and that's why it's good to start from here and say, okay, working backwards from these slideshows, what do I need to learn? And the good news is I've already got it all for you here on YouTube. Like this channel, a recruiting thing, is on top of hundreds of episodes. All they're free, not monetized. There's no hope of monetizing that way. But you're saying, well, how am I going to make money? You're like telling me to go out and teach this stuff for free, or what am I telling you? Well, no, I'm not saying it one way or the other. You may already be an employed teacher. You may be in the Chinese Peace Corps about to go to Africa or something, and you just want to share, you want some common thing to bond over, right? That includes Python code and a lot of geometry, because geometry is kind of universal. It's easy to communicate. And sphere packing, who doesn't love sphere packing? Conway and Guy, Book of Numbers, Midhat Ghazaleh. There's all the math teachers you want. So it's very STEM, and yet it's humanities based. So that's the thing. This is a philosophy school. You can get more on Coffee Shops Network. That's a blog. I'll let you go look for it this time. But again, it's all on YouTube. Everything's there, including a mobilization plan involving BISMOs, business mobiles. But that's just code language, and people don't call them that. There's a Russian word I heard recently. Gosh, who's that guy who goes to Donbass recently in a van, a business mobile? There's a BISMO YouTube channel. And a long time ago, I envisioned, there's more than one BISMO YouTube channel, but small teams of people roving around in their BISMOs doing good work and having people see them and be their fans on YouTube and stuff and other media and sending them money, right, in front of everyone else, like during chat and all this, or in the background through Kickstart, things like that. These were all concepts I wrote about and have been writing about for a long time. The idea that you would find your teams in the field and maybe join them someday, but start out as sending them money. And where's this money that you're sending them coming from? Check out Coffee Shops Network. Stuff about charitable giving in the context of arcade game playing. So we've got all kinds of vector calculus or vector computational geometry with the kind of vectors you probably haven't heard of. But again, check Wikipedia. Quadray coordinates used to be hosted at the Math Forum. Lots on the web. And it's kind of new and interesting stuff. And I'll stop with this slide. How about that? See if I've got everything so far. I will be giving this talk again shortly. I'm already well entrenched in all this stuff. So as being a role model, I can do that. I've been doing that. So if you want to be getting ideas, I've taught school here in Portland. In other words, I'm able to walk my talk in my current context as someone who's been teaching this stuff and getting paid for it. And with other stuff, though. Like, I don't teach just pure, unadulterated Bucky most of the time. By Bucky, I mean synergetics and his anticipatory design science and those things. Like, I do include that. And I'm saying as a college professor like that, if you're not using the Buckminster Fuller corpus in your philosophy department, then check out Earlham College, for example. I'm not saying they're doing that explicitly, but there's more Bucky awareness there than most places. Okay. And that makes sense. The Quaker schools are listening to me some, not all. I'm not in charge. But we've been doing Martian math a long time. And I have been doing, I've got 2 generations of kids already grown up who can share this material because they went through my classes. So there is competition. In other words, you're hearing me recruit, And you're thinking, well, how many other people have already been duped for this? And I'm saying a number, right? So there's an invisible army here of people boning up on this stuff so that they're ready to make for some interesting experiences, right? There's a movie making angle. Like combine this with film school and the ability to do 3D graphics, 4D, whatever. Think in those terms. You want to get out in the field and make stuff happen. So you're in one of these business mobiles somewhere from driving Beijing to Istanbul. You're doing basically advanced work for what I call the trucker exchange program, which is, again, there's a lot of homework behind this. The more you want to get how much you want to get it from my angle, then there's read my blog some. But I'm not saying you have to duplicate me or just do my angle, right? But be aware of this material. It's largely being ignored. And I'm saying one way to feel you got ripped off, you got all that student debt, and yet they didn't teach you this stuff, you can build that sense that they really took your money but didn't give you the goods. And so you're teaching this stuff kind of to show them what they should have taught you, right? Go out there, kind of, this is get your sweet revenge after spending so much money and not getting this stuff. You can like use that to your advantage. In other words, use the silence of business plot 2. The people who won business plot 2 and deprived you of your American heritage, they're not necessarily your friends, right? So think about it. And watch a lot of cartoons. Okay, almost to the end of these slides. We say, well, what an uphill battle. You're asking me to teach some memory hold Orwellian rabbit hole nonsense. You think I'm going to do that? And I'm saying, no, 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 you've got traction here. We are the mainstream. This windmills are us means, like I said at the outset, this is Dewline, Cold War, Medal of Freedom. Bucky Fuller, Medal of Freedom. Super Patriot. Totally right wing if you want it to be. Totally left wing if you want it to be. Right? You gotta shape it. If you want to do this in good conscience, you obviously don't want to betray your ideals and your friends or whoever. I'm saying there's an angle on this, and you don't need to be a citizen of any particular country or speak any particular first language. I don't speak a lot of languages, so it's going to be up to some of you, but I have like contacts through, like, say, Lithuania, right? Math for Wisdom, you guys. You speak some languages. I sure don't. So some of you can make your niche in that. How do you go back and forth between this? In other words, Synergetics has not yet been translated, as far as I know, into Chinese. So why not get on that, right? Stuff like that. And contact Buckminster Fuller Institute. They're the estate, but it's online. You can read it already. I'm talking about Synergetics. What I'm showing on the slides here comes from a text you can get online, and learn enough of it. I'm not saying memorize. Just it's part of the heritage here, whether you agree with it or not. Whether it's goofy or not, the physics is wrong or not, that's like we still read it. We read in history. I do anyway. I read Masonic stuff. I read all kinds of texts that I'm not trying to believe. I read Mithraic religion stuff. Martin Luther King wrote about Mithraism, Mithraism. Does that mean I'm Mithraic? I know I'm into bulls. I guess some. Not into bullfighting, I don't think. I never like was a Hemingway type. I don't run with the bulls or anyway, I digress. So guys, by that I mean all of you. Gender neutral guys. Help me out here. Join the invisible army and pump it out. Do your homework and be in student mode and then be in teacher mode. Welcome you aboard. Learn to do these slides and do them. Like I invite you in other versions of this slideshow explicitly to just take these slides and run with them. And sure, there are Kirby slides, there's my talking head on there and stuff. But you can say when you show this that you have permission from the author of the slides. And it's like, I'm trying to make it more like folk music, where you just say, oh, yeah, that's a great song, and then just use the slides, right? And put your own spin on it. Or make your own, of course, right? I'm hoping all kinds of slide decks start flooding out there, and that I can start using your decks, right? That you've got 3D, 4D graphics that I can't do. Like, I'm only up to a certain level here. But if I get a slideshow that shows me what I'm trying to show in a way better than I've been able to do, or just different, like I'm kind of like a Sesame Street guy. I'm influenced by watching Sesame Street at the high school age because I was living in the Philippines. I'd kind of missed out watching it growing up because I was too old, but it was a great show, right? Sesame Street. And they would have all kinds of treatments of like the letter A and the number 6 by all kind of different artists, all kind of different modalities. And that's what I'm saying around this material. It's like I come at it from my angle, but in terms of aesthetic animations, being able to demonstrate this stuff, um, there's the sky's the limit, right? And I would like to use your slide decks and presentations um, to help me convey these concepts. And I'm only being I can only go so far. And here, these I didn't make these toys, right? These are just on the market. So I just got these on the market. And a lot of these graphics, like the one in the middle, that was from collaboration, right? I did not do those graphics. That's Richard Hawkins. I've been using those for a long time. He's a super student of these A and B modules. So there's geometry, there's nomenclature, and check out School of Tomorrow out here, where we go back. Here's history with some of the Occupy stuff. There's Smedley Butler, so on, right? That Occupy Portland and the Hoovervilles. So if you don't know about Occupy, come check us out. Come learn more. Come be part of our movement, and we'll talk to you in the near future.